15 seconds to air. Stand by, all cameras.
Ready with slow motion and isolated cameras.
Stand by, videotape, and roll tape.
And tape is rolling in less than 5, in 3, 2, 1.
Take tape.
From Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, two powers in the National Football Conference meet tonight, the Los Angeles Rams of the Western Division and the Minnesota Vikings of the Central Division. NFL Monday Night Football is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer, who invite you to come in and test drive the 1971 Fords, the cars with the better ideas. And by Marlboro Filter Cigarettes. Come to where the flavor is. Come to Marlboro Country.
It is a rainy, penetrating night here at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. As you look down on the field and some of the players who have just been introduced here. A late arriving crowd again because of traffic, but a packed house assured, and we are in the distant booth at which you are now looking. Good evening, everyone. I'm Howard Cosell, and this one needs absolutely no build-up. This could be the perfect match for the whole year. Two powerhouse teams that fought it out for the Western Conference crown in the NFL a year ago. The host team, the Minnesota Vikings, with extraordinary defense. The challengers, the Los Angeles Rams, who dropped 2 to the Vikings a year ago, with extraordinary defense. But for offense, Minnesota, good enough to have crushed Dallas with 54 points a week ago. The Rams, good enough to have scored 31 points on the Packers in a testing victory a week ago. One quick but important note. Tonight, as you know, Muhammad Ali in Atlanta, Georgia, returns to the ring against Jerry Quarry. We have a direct phone line there, too. As significant developments occur, we will report them to you. Now, to amplify on those defenses that I have mentioned, our play-by-play announcer, Keith Jackson.
Howard, I think it's a little unusual to have two heavyweight fights in the same night, but that's what we have. We have a couple of heavyweights here in Bloomington, Minnesota. The basic strength of these two teams has to be within their defenses. For example, the Minnesota defense has allowed only 36 points so far, but they've scored 36 points themselves. The Los Angeles Rams, on the other hand, have allowed only 64 points so far, and they have sacked the enemy quarterback 23 times in 5 games. So these are two clubs tough to be a quarterback against.
And I would think that the one quarterback who might know most about that is the man who played against both defensive rush lines, eyeball to eyeball, Don Meredith.
I didn't fall in love with either one of them, Howard. I'll tell you, they're both tough, and I don't know any quarterback that did. I met Gary Quazzo this week for the first time, and I was very interested in a couple of comments that Gary made. This is the first time this year that he is the #1 quarterback, and this was undecided until actually the first of the season when Joe Cap was finally traded to Boston. And he tells me, as I certainly agree, this has made all the difference in him as his confidence is built up. But I'll tell you, I asked him, I said, Gary, I'd like to have a little idea about what you're going to do on your game plan so it could benefit our isolated cameras. What are you going to do on short yardage? And he says, no, I can't tell you that. And said, if you'd like to know something more about it, ask Bud Grant. And for those of you who may know Bud Grant, if he and my former coach Tom Landry were in a personality contest, there might not be a winner. So I'm not going to be able to give you too much information on what they're really going to do on first down. And he gave me that standard quarterback answer, we've got to establish the run. And with Roman Gabriel, whom I've known for several years, Roman was quieter this time than I've known him to be in the past. And Roman also said we were going to try to balance our attack, about 50% run and 50% pass, which again is another good standard quarterback question. But this did indicate this to me. Both of these quarterbacks have more or less set the tone of this game. It's a very important game, and I think it's indicated by their reaction to some of the questions that we gave them this week. I'm looking forward to the game, and I hope we have a good night for it.
Thank you very much, Don. And since you talked about Roman Gabriel, and since he was the player of the year in the NFL a year ago, we elected just a few moments ago to talk with Roman Gabriel, and he was kind enough, and Coach George Allen was kind enough to let him come out undercover to talk with me. Gabe, truthfully, after the 2 disappointing losses a year ago, costing you the championship you most wanted to Minnesota, is this perhaps the key game of your whole career?
Well, actually, anytime you lose a ball game, it's it destroys yourself. You destroy yourself mentally, and it's hard to get yourself going again for another ball game. But the way we lost to Minnesota last year to get knocked out of a chance for the championship, this has to be a big game for all of us, and we came to play.
You thought about retirement after the last defeat a year ago.
Well, I think that crosses everybody's mind, not only a professional athlete, but just a businessman. Whenever he has a heartbreak or a heartache, he thinks about letting it go for a while, and that's more or less what I did. I did a lot of thinking, and now I'm here to play.
Okay. Are you really? That's the question. Some thought you had separated that left shoulder a week ago. There was some question about your ability to play tonight. Alvin Heyman, the great kick returner, has had physical problems, and Bob Brown, the brilliant offensive tackle and great pass blocker, strained knee ligaments. Are you all set?
They're all here, Howard, and they're all dressing right now, and once that whistle blows, they're going to play, so if they're hurt, then I don't know anything about it.
The rain won't bother you.
It sure won't. We came to play, as I mentioned to you earlier.
Roman, good luck to you. Congratulations on having been the player of the year a year ago.
Howard, thank you.
Roman Gabriel, of course, will be back at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota in just 1 minute.
And now to sing our national anthem, Jim Neighbors, the Minnesota Viking band director, Ralph Mendenhall, the University of Minnesota band director, Frank Van Criscudo.
Jim Neighbors will lead us in the singing. Let's all join in.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail as the twilight fast gleaming, whose lights and bright stars through the perilous fight for the rapids we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red flare, the bumpers singing it, yet through the night, that a flag was still there. Oh, say those that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Jim Neighbors singing our national anthem at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota. The Los Angeles Rams from the Western Division of the National Football Conference and the Minnesota Vikings from the Central Division of the National Football Conference. Both teams must win to retain leadership in their respective divisions. The teams have met 16 times, including last year's Western Division playoff. The Minnesota Vikings have won 9, lost 6. There has been 1 tie. The Los Angeles Rams in white will kick off. The Minnesota Vikings will receive. The deep men are Clint Jones, number 26, on your left, and he is the swiftest and the speedster of the 2 deep men. Charlie West is the other man. David Ray will kick off for the Los Angeles Rams. So we will see Minnesota on offense as we get the game underway. David Ray of Alabama, a second-year man who did quite a job in Green Bay for the Rams, kicked a vital field goal to help them win it. The kick carries to the 4-yard line where Clint Jones takes it. And Clint comes back to the 24. He may get some more room. He does. He gets up across the 25. So it will be the Minnesota Vikings ball, 1st and 10, as Clint Jones, with a fine second effort, brought it back to the 25-yard line. The rain, a very light mist, is continuing to drift down across Metropolitan Stadium. The crowd a little late getting here. Now, to check the offensive unit for the Minnesota Vikings, the quarterback will be Gary Quazzo, number 15. The running backs, number 41, Dave Osborne, and number 32, Oscar Reed. From the 25, 1st and 10, Minnesota. Osborne is at the 30, or close to it. as he comes over at the right guard, and he is following Milt Sunday and Ron Yerry. Sunday, number 64, Ed White, number 62, are the Minnesota guards. The center is number 53, Mick Tinglehoff. The tackles are Grady Alderman, number 67, and Ron Yerry, number 73. The wide receivers, number 84, Gene Washington, and number 27, Bob Grimm. The tight end is number 87, John Beasley. Second down and 6 from the 29, and Quazzo is back to throw. He swings it out to Osborne. Osborne, who is a very nifty runner, moves very well on the damp turf and gets up across the 35-yard line for what appears to be a first down for the Minnesota Vikings. He was brought down by Coy Bacon, number 79. It is close enough for a measurement. The chain gang will come on the field. Fred Silva is the referee. The umpire is Ralph Moorcroft, the head linesman George Murphy, the line judge Bill Wright, the back judge Hugh Gamber, and the field judge is Jim Cole. And while the measurement is taking place, let's take a quick look at the white-clad Rams defense. You will get the sign here and hear the roar if it is a first down, and it is. On defense for the Rams, the fearsome foursome. Number 75 is David Jones. Number 74, Merlin Olson. Number 72, Dyrone Talbert. Number 79 is Coy Bacon. The linebackers, 32, Jack Pardee. 66, Myron Padios. 55, Maxie Vaughn. The secondary, Clarence Williams, 24, Kermit Alexander. 39, cornerbacks. The safeties, Richard Pettibone. 17, Ed Metter, number 21. Okay, first down, Minnesota at the 36-yard line. The play goes inside. Testing the fearsome foursome, Oscar Reed. He found very little room. He was greeted by number 32 linebacker Jack Pardee. We've talked a great deal about defense at the outset of this ball game. I might remind you that the last time there was a scoreless tie in professional football was November 7, 1943, between the New York Giants and the Detroit Lions. Second down and 9. For the Minnesota Vikings from the 36. Quazzo is back to throw. The Rams overrun him. He's away at the 40. Beasley throws a block to get him up near midfield. So an alert play by Gary Quazzo. He is finally run down and knocked to the turf by number 32, Jack Pardee. That will be a Minnesota first down at midfield. So Gary Quazzo, who moved into the starting quarterback job for the Minnesota Vikings with the shift of Joe Kapp over to the Boston Patriots, picked up 14 yards and the second first down for the Minnesota Vikings in this ball game. This is Keith Jackson along with Howard Cosell and Don Meredith from Metropolitan Stadium as you watch NFL Monday Night Football on ABC. First down, Vikings, midfield. Quazzo to throw. He throws for Bob Grimm, number 27, and the pass is too high, defending Kermit Alexander for the Rams. The temperature will settle into the 50s, perhaps even into the high 40s before we are through here tonight. As this rain continues, a beautiful morning, but the rains came just about dark. The 5-game statistical story on Gary Quazzo as he comes up on second down and 10 for the Vikings. A pitch to Oscar Reed. Gets away in the backfield from Coy Bacon, and then he is finally dragged down. The football is fumbled. Rolls to the sidelines, and Los Angeles Rams, Kermit Alexander picked up the loose football, and it's going to be Rams ball. So the wet football slides loose as Oscar Reed was hit hard on the sideline, and Alexander, trailing the play, picked it up. This telecast is presented by authority of the Minnesota Vikings Football Club, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Minnesota Vikings Football Club and National Football League is prohibited. So the break for the Rams, first down at their own 49-yard line on Alexander's recovery of the fumble. Roman Gabriel is the quarterback. Les Josephson, Larry Smith are the setbacks for the Rams offensively. Gabe back to throw on first down. Throws to Jack Snow. Snow on the sidelines is shoved out of bounds by Ed Sherrockman of the Minnesota Vikings. And now let's very quickly, number 84 is Jack Snow, run down the Rams offense. The other wide receiver, Wendell Tucker, number 14. Roman Gabriel, number 18, the quarterback. Larry Smith and Les Josephson are the setbacks. Along the line, 73, Charlie Cowan, and 76, Bob Brown, the tackles. The guards, Tom Mack, 65, Joe Schiavelli, 71. The center is Ken Ivan, and the ball is at the Viking 30-yard line, first down, 21 yards on the pass play. Ball is loose. The pitch to Les Josephson. It squirts around, and Minnesota comes up with it.
Would you say, Don, that two quick fumbles show a little bit of tension on the part of both clubs?
I think that's primarily the reason, Howard. When it rains like it is right now, of course, that's the thing that everyone says does cause a great deal of problems in ball handling, and it certainly does. That was not a real good pitch back to the fullback that time. It looked like it was a little bit hard, but I'm sure they are excited.
Alan Page comes up with the recovery. I think Jim Marshall also had a hand in it. The Vikings ball, first down at their own 31, first quarter. Inside to Osborne. If he got back to the line of scrimmage healthy, he was lucky. Tyrone Talbot, number 72, defensive right tackle, made the stop for the Rams. Second down and 10, Minnesota from their own 31. No score, first quarter. Rams jump, Merlin Olsen making contact. Perhaps he was drawn off. Wait for the referee. Nope, he was not. Olsen anticipating offside.
That'll be one of tonight's interesting matchups, Don, as you know. Merlin Olsen against Sunday. And Merlin feels he didn't do a good enough job against him last year in the title game.
Second down, 4. Vikings ball just outside the 36. Quazzo pitches to Osborne. Cuts inside, and there the pursuers get him.
Both of the defensive philosophies of these teams are very similar, as Keith pointed out at the top of the game. They rely a great deal on their front four to put on a good rush and contain the running game. Their linebackers' main responsibility is to drop to an area and cover area coverage, and also the pursuit that these linebackers give, as you saw in that last play, is also a very instrumental thing in defensive coverage as far as end sweeps are concerned.
The man the Rams called the Secretary of Defense, David Jones, made the last tackle. Loss of 3 yards. Third down, 7. The ball is back at the 33-yard line for the Minnesota Vikings. John Beasley, the tight end, slips into the flat, makes the catch, gets up across the 40 to the 41-yard line. Eddie Metter, free safety number 21, made the tackle for the Rams. It's close to a first down, and it is a first down for the Minnesota Vikings, their third.
As I visited with Quazzo before this game, one of the things that he did tell me, he says the Rams have had a tendency in the past, anytime they played against me when he was at Baltimore, to blitz more than they show on their tendency. And you saw a blitz there rather early in the ball game. We may see that later on.
First down, Vikings, ball at their own 41. Bob Grimm is wide right. Quazzo has it. He looks. He throws back to the other side to Oscar Reed. Reed had it in his tummy and dropped it. Reed had it right in his hands, getting coverage from Myron Patios, and he dropped it.
The Viking fans holler, give the seed to Reed, and that time the seed was either a little wet or Reed couldn't hold on to it. The ball was a little bit underthrown, but it did get there, and he just dropped it. He was man-to-man on the middle linebacker, Myron Patios. Occasionally that happens when a roll-type pattern comes out. He came out of the backfield. That was Patios' man for man. That's a good matchup if you can get it every time.
Bill Brown is in the ball game, replacing Reed. Bill Brown needs just 22 more yards to become the 13th man in history to gain 5,000 yards in the NFL. Quazzo on second down gives it to Bill Brown. And Brown strikes from the 41 to about the 49-yard line before Maxie Vaughn, number 55, makes the tackle for the Rams. The boss man of the Rams, George Allen. Third down. Call it 3 yards to go for Minnesota for the first down. They are at their 48. Osborne. Talbert had a piece of him. Merlin Olsen also in on it. Short of the first down. A loss, in fact, of 2 yards. It'll be 4th down for the Minnesota Vikings and 4. And the Vikings will have to kick it away. Alvin Heyman, one of the most exciting punt return men in all of football, is deep for the Los Angeles Rams. Tom McNeil, number 12, will punt for Minnesota, averaging 42 yards per punt. A 2-man rush. The kick is away. A beautiful kick. Heyman. Fumble. The Vikings may have it. Inside the Ram 20, they do. The Minnesota Vikings have the football inside the Ram 20. Kent Kramer, number 89, on the ball. NFL Monday Night Football continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, with our score, Rams nothing, Vikings nothing. First quarter, we have no score. 8 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in the first period between the Rams and the Vikings in the big one in the National Football League for this weekend, and you're watching on ABC. And here come the Minnesota Vikings with a golden opportunity, first down, on the Los Angeles 18-yard line. Gary Quazzo, the Viking quarterback. Quazzo has it, looking for the strike into the end zone. It is in and out of the hands of Gene Washington. Kermit Alexander made a pass at the ball, did not get it. It was on Washington's hands and fell away. And let's take another look at the fumble that gave Minnesota this chance.
You always hate to see a fumble, really, of any kind, because it breaks the rhythm of a ball game. That just hit him right in the hands, and I suppose the ball is a little bit wetter than what we give it credit for. And the Vikings did recover the fumble. That set them up in great field goal position. So it was a big break for the Vikings.
And the pressure right now on the Los Angeles defense. Quazzo gives to Osborne up the middle. Coy Bacon, one of the first men to get him. It is hard to move against the Los Angeles front four on the ground. Merlin Olsen and Coy Bacon teaming for the tackle.
Oh, Coy Bacon, number 79, was with Dallas, and he was on our taxi squad one year, and he played up in the Continental League in Oklahoma. He'd come back every week and give us a report on his pass rush. We'd say, Coy, how you doing that pass rush? He said, baby, I am so fast, I get back and tell the quarterback where to set up. So let's see what he does tonight.
Call it a 2-yard pickup for Osborne. 3rd down and 8. Quazzo to throw. He throws wide open. Bill Brown, touchdown. Bill Brown got away in the secondary and went in all by himself, and the Vikings are on the board at 7:47 to go in the first quarter.
Somebody missed that assignment back there that time. Maybe we can take a look at it in a little while and see what happened, but nobody's supposed to be open that much.
You better believe it.
The Vikings go 18 yards in 3 plays on the 17-yard scoring shot from Quazzo to Bill Brown, coming out of the backfield. Fred Cox will try the extra point. He's 15 out of 15. He's 16 out of 16. And we have a timeout at Met Stadium here in Minnesota with our score now. The Minnesota Vikings 7, the Los Angeles Rams nothing. The Minnesota Vikings have taken the lead, 7-0. In the first quarter, Alvin Heyman is the deep man for the Los Angeles Rams. Fred Cox kicking off for the Minnesota Vikings. He drills it on a line. It's picked off by Big Pat Curran, I think it is, number 88, a tight end. And Curran comes back to about the 36-yard line. And let's take another look at the Minnesota touchdown.
From the end zone camera, we'll take a look. You'll see Bill Brown, number 30, as he comes out of the backfield. Quazzo goes back just in a pocket pass. You'll see Patios go over to cover him. I actually think that the man that's to cover him was my old buddy from Georgia Tech, the old Ramblin' Rick, number 55, Maxie Vaughn, as you see come in. He just missed his assignment.
We go back to live action. The Los Angeles Rams have the ball, 34-yard line, first down. Roman Gabriel, the quarterback. Smith and Josephson behind him. Larry Smith up to about the 39. Hit hard by Jim Marshall, number 70, defensive end for the Vikings.
Page, number 88, in my opinion, is one of the finest defensive tackles in football. invariably they'll try 2 men on him. You'll see the pursuit he has. He's not only big, but he's very agile, quick, comes all the way down the line, makes a great move. Great play by Page, number 88.
A gain 4 yards, second down, 6. Ball up to 39 for the Rams. They trail 7-0. Here comes Larry Smith from the other side. Carl Eller after him, and Eller gets him.
Keith, the Rams are going to try and establish the running game, as Don Meredith enunciated earlier. And as we isolate on Carl Eller, you'll see the very great number 81 fighting off the blocks, moving in to make the tackle on Larry Smith, the second-year man, who was a very good one from Florida. Watch that pursuit, the very thing Don pointed out a moment ago. But they are going to try and establish the running game. They will not throw long against the famed Minnesota secondary zone defense.
A loss of a yard, third down 7, Rams from their own 38. Penalty flags in the air. Apparently contact was made, and again you get an idea of the tremendous anticipation and even, if you will, anxiety that exists along that front line. The Rams were the ones guilty of moving this time.
I know this looks funny a lot to folks at home when they see a defense jump off sides like that, and there's a lot of confusion, and they wind up calling a penalty against the offense. But the rule says the offensive player, after he sets in his stance, he cannot move. Now, if the ball is not snapped, the defensive man has an opportunity to get back across that line of scrimmage, and it wasn't snapped before an offensive lineman moved, and I think that was Brown that moved to the right tackle for the Rams.
The ball is now back just short of the 33-yard line. Rams ball, third down and 13. Gabriel gives it to Larry Smith. He'll sweep. Marshall is after him, and it's Marshall and Lonnie Warwick, number 59, that really high-low him. There's Bud Grant, the coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The Los Angeles Rams will have to kick it away on fourth down and 11.
We talked about mistakes last week, Don. So far, there have been 4 made by Los Angeles, 2 penalties, none against Minnesota, 2 fumbles, both recovered by Minnesota. Minnesota only 1, a fumble recovered by Los Angeles, but not in the field position situation that L.A. faced on their last fumble.
That's a good point.
Pat Studstill is the punter for the Los Angeles Rams, averaging 41 yards per kick. Has a little trouble handling it, just barely gets it away. And the kick is out of bounds at the Minnesota 31-yard line, and Steve Smith almost blocked it. We're in the first quarter. 5 minutes and 1 second to play. NFL Monday Night Football continues from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, with our score, the Vikings 7, the Rams nothing. The Minnesota Vikings own the football, first and 10 at their own 31-yard line. They lead in the ball game 7-0, 5:01 to play, first quarter. Gary Quazzo is the quarterback. Bill Brown back with him, protecting on the pass as Quazzo delivers to John Henderson, number 80, and a penalty flag is down. Let's see if it goes against Henderson, the receiver, or Clancy Williams, the defensive back for the Rams.
I think O'Clancy got him that time. But we'll take a look at it. You'll see up at the top of your screen, he's just running a post pattern. He does come across the middle. Clancy closes, and Clancy's got good speed. He's a very aggressive defensive back. He comes in, he kind of hangs that arm a little bit into him right before the ball gets there. Henderson is the receiver. Clancy Williams is the defender.
24 yards on the play. It's first down, Minnesota. Los Angeles Rams 45. Bob Grimm out, has a sore leg. The handoff to Bill Brown, and oh, did he get totaled. Ed White, number 62, trying to lead the blocking, but it's very difficult. Maxie Vaughn from the linebacker position really fired and got his man. Richie Pettibone also coming up from the secondary. The Los Angeles Rams secondary reads Clarence Williams and Kermit Alexander, 24 and 39 respectively at the corners. The safeties are Richie Pettibone, 17, Eddie Metter, number 21. Advance the ball, quality yard, second down 9. Osborne. He's busy. He's got a Minnesota first down at the Los Angeles 32-yard line. Deacon Jones brought him down.
Great footwork there on a wet field by Mr. Osborne. He got through there, did a little dancing. Moves like that on a night like this will sure get you some yardage because those defensive people don't have any idea where you're going. And if you have the balance and the ability to move your feet like that, it's going to certainly enable you to get more yardage.
Gain of 11 yards on the play. Call it to 33. Quazzo gives it to Bill Brown, and Brown is heading for that 5,000 yards in a hurry. He's down to the Ram 25 for a pickup of 8, brought down by Ed Metter.
Oh, Boom Boom just jumped in there with that one like he knew what he was doing. There was a good hole on that left side of the line. They went right at Coy Bacon and Darren Talbert, and they opened it up good, and he slid right through.
Second down, 2. Rain is really coming down. Osborne. He's about as slick as the football. He's down to about the 23, maybe close to the first down. Richie Pettibone gets the tackle for the Rams.
Tackle by Richie Pettibone.
Louis Armstrong and Tennessee Ernie Ford guest star with Johnny Cash on the Johnny Cash Show Wednesday night at 8 Central Time here on ABC. So there'll be some old-fashioned foot stomping in that one.
Timeout to measure.
The chain gang coming on the field, and the rain is really pelting down right now. They are a little bit short, as you can see.
I hate to see a night like this for a game like this. Doesn't hardly seem fair. Get a good ball game, you ought to have good weather.
We've played it this morning. It's been great. Third down, a short yard for the Minnesota Vikings. Ball is at the Los Angeles, just inside the 24. And going into the middle, apparently for the first down, number 32, Oscar Reed. Clint Jones it was, number 26, who had come in. And I'm trying to mop the windows here so that I can get a little better view of what's going on. As you can see, the rain is really coming down. The Vikings now have 6 first down.
Meanwhile, Don, it's the old bromide. They're running right at Los Angeles' strength, the front 4.
They beat them. They got the others sacked up.
The Vikings are leading 7-0, 2 minutes to play in the first quarter, and Minnesota's on the move again. Bill Brown slips one tackle. Myron Patios missed him in the backfield, and he gets back inside the line of scrimmage, maybe a yard on the play.
Well, Myron Patios has been playing good football this year, and I was talking to Myron. He says, you know, I didn't know how good I was until Jack Reynolds came along. Reynolds has been doing a good job for him as a backup this year, and Myron has certainly shown the effects, which again proves up a little pressure never hurt anybody.
Bill Brown now has 17 yards. He needs 22 to reach the 5,000 mark. Ball is just outside the Ram 21. Quazzo back to throw in the pouring rain. Flips it out to Osborne. The ball is loose. It's still loose. It's picked up by Clancy Williams of the Rams, and he comes back out to the 41-yard line. John Henderson tried to grab it, but the ball squirted free from him, and Clancy Williams came up to recover for the Rams.
Hey, we got some good things on this one. Number 1 is a great catch by Osborne. Good pass by Quazzo. He gets it over the head of Jones. He took a lick right there. Henderson couldn't hold on to it. Clancy Williams, number 24, comes up and picks it up. Rams have got the ball.
First and 10 at their own 41-yard line. Roman Gabriel, the quarterback. Wendell Tucker is wide to the right side, and Gabe back to throw. Slips. Cannot get away. He is caught from behind and dragged down by number 70, Jim Marshall, and Gary Larson, 77. Give you an idea of the matchup along that front line. The Los Angeles Rams on offense. Charlie Cowan, 6'4", 265 against Marshall, 6'3", 248. Tom Mack, 6'3", 250 against Alan Page, 6'4", 250. Joe Schiavelli, 6 feet, 255 against Greg Larson, 6'4", 270. Bob Brown, 6'4", 290 against Carl Eller, 6'4", 270. Any wonder the earth might crack? Second down and 14. The ball now is back at the 38-yard line. Make it second down and 13 as Gabriel goes to throw. Swings it to Les Josephson. And Josie is caught by Carl Kasolke, number 29, and brought down as he gets up to the 47-yard line, short of a first down. Paul Dixon had penetrated for the Vikings, number 76. And we have come to the end of the first quarter. After one, the Minnesota Vikings lead 7-0 over the Los Angeles Rams. In Bloomington, Minnesota, with the Minnesota Vikings out in front, the Los Angeles Rams have the football. Third down, they need 4 yards for a first down. The ball is at their 47-yard line. In the first quarter, the Vikings ran 22 offensive plays compared to 6 for the Rams. Gabriel to throw it. Throws it. It'll be an incompleted forward pass. He was hammered by Gary Larson, number 77, just as he released it, but he did get it away.
Gabe feels he's got the best offensive line in football with all the fellas you named, Keith, Cowan, Max, Sabelli, and all the rest. But they so far have not stopped that pass rush, and they must stop it if they have a chance. You're looking at it now. From the end zone, Gabe looking for the receiver and getting clobbered by number 70 on the release.
Jim Marshall was the man that made contact instead of Larson. That's Pat Studstill. The punt. Bob Grimm, who's back in the ball game, along with Charlie West, are the deep men for the Vikings. Studstill's kick, beauty. Considering the weather conditions, sensational punt. All the way back to the Minnesota 11-yard line, where the fair catch was taken by Charlie West. And we have a timeout here in Minnesota with our score, the Vikings 7, the Rams nothing. The ball is on the Minnesota 11-yard line. The Vikings have the ball, first and 10. 14 minutes, 48 seconds to play in the first half, and the Vikings lead 7-0. The scoring coming in the first quarter, recovering a Rams fumble on the 18, 3 plays that took it in, a 17-yard pass, Quazzo to Bill Brown. Number 80, John Henderson, wide to the right as Quazzo, number 15, calls the signal. Osborne and Brown are the setbacks. Dave Osborne cradling that ball, and he is a fine runner. The gain will be out past the 15, probably the 16-yard line. And the first quarter statistics, as you can see, with a big edge in offensive plays and first downs, and everything, as a matter of fact, to the Minnesota Vikings. Call it a gain of 4 yards for Osborne. Second down and 6. The ball at the 15. They've got to go to the 21 to get the first down. Bill Brown sifting through behind a very strong block by number 64, Milt Sunday, is up close to the 20. If he got 5, he's got 5,000 yards in his career. They're going to give him 4. He needs 1 more yard to reach 5,000. This time, number 84, Gene Washington, comes wide to the right. John Henderson goes to the left. Third down, a yard to go. That's Osborne, and Dave did not make the first down. He is stopped inside the 20 by the Rams. It will be 4th down and a yard to go for the Minnesota Vikings at the 20-yard line. They will have to kick it away.
You're looking at head coach George Allen, strict disciplinarian, center of controversy. Stormo Petrel left the Chicago Bears. The Bears sued him for doing it when he took over at Los Angeles. Doesn't get along with his owner. Owner fired him as we await this punt. But the players stood behind him. He's still there.
The kick is away by McNeil. Backing up to take it is Kermit Alexander. Gets a great block from his cohort, Alvin Heyman. Alexander reversing his field, trying to get away. He may still do it. Nope. He is cut down, hit hard by Jim Lindsay, and Kent Kramer is hurt for the Vikings downfield. Penalty flag on the field.
As we await the penalty, Keith, to continue the saga of George Allen. Owner Dan Reeves says that even if he wins the Super Bowl this year, he's out. His contract ends. Well, say what you will about George Allen. Take whatever side you want. The penalty, as you can see, against the Vikings and another break for the Rams. Rather, against the Rams and another break for the Vikings. George Allen is a winner. From 1967 through the present date, he's won 36, lost 8, and tied 3, and that record speaks for itself.
The ball is back at the 14-yard line as a result of the clip by the Rams. Roman Gabriel, the quarterback for Los Angeles. Alvin Heyman did not get his block down clean. They called him for the clipping. The handoff to Lester Josephson, who is a native son of this great state of Minnesota. And Josie gets it up to the 17 before Roy Winston, Old Arm and Hammer, knocks him down.
Les had some of his family with him last night at the restaurant having dinner. Says, Don, I want you to go over meeting the folks. I said, great. Looked like a family reunion. I've never seen so many of them. They all look about alike. They got that real blonde hair and blue eyes. He said, no, they're all my family, brothers and sisters. Nice looking group of folks.
2nd down and 7 from the 17. Gabriel gives it to Larry Smith. And the big youngster from Florida is at the 20 before the middle of the Minnesota line collapses on him. And leading that collapse is Lonnie Warwick, middle linebacker, number 59.
Don, the reason, as you know, I mentioned mistakes earlier, George Allen teaches his men minimize the mistakes, the penalties, the interceptions, the fumbles, because Allen knows he doesn't have the swiftness in the offensive backfield or even in the wide receivers to strike long and with immediacy. They have to do everything the hard way.
11:20 to go, first half. Vikings lead 7-0. 3rd down, 3 yards to go for the Rams at their 20. Gabriel has it. He throws to Smith. Larry is caught. He had a first down, I think. The ball is loose. The officials have blown it dead. The Minnesota Vikings have the football. Alan Page, I believe, was the man that came up with it. Alan Page, who has turned into one of the biggest thieves in the National Football League this year. He is something.
That defense has done it again, and Howard was just talking about the mistakes. You'll see Alan Page again, number 88. He's a great defensive player all around. He puts on a good rush, and he does have a habit of being where that ball is. He's come up with a couple. He came up with an interception for a touchdown this year. You'll see him there pick up the fumble. Those Vikings know when Page gets the ball, he's heading for the goal line.
Wally Hilgenberg helped him out a little bit. Wally, as a matter of fact, might have helped knock the ball loose to get the ball to Allen. It's on the 14, first down. Quazzo goes for the corner. Henderson, he's got it out of bounds inside the 5.
That was a good gutsy call. You throw that thing out in the flat with a guy like Clancy Williams covering, and if it slips a little bit in this weather, you know that there's a possibility of him picking it off and going all the way, but that was a good call and a good catch by Henderson.
And it's first down and goal to go for the Minnesota Vikings as they try to cash in on another Ram mistake. Make the big play, and it's been the defense making the big play this season for the Minnesota Vikings. Call it the 3.5-yard line. First and goal to go. Clint Jones in at running back. They give it to Osborne. He's stacked up behind the line of scrimmage. Verlin Olsen, number 74. Maxie Vaughn, number 55 for the Rams.
Don't know whether you noticed the Rams made a slight shift in their defensive line right at the last minute there, and they did shift their line over to where the play actually came. And it was a little bit too late for Quazzo to audible, so they ran right into the strength of the defensive line of the Rams.
Second down, goal to go. Call it the 4-yard line. Tengelhoff gives to Quazzo. Quazzo in trouble, and Troy Bacon hammers in.
Take a look at Quazzo as he fakes the handoff. He's on a rollout pattern. He wants to throw. You'll see Bacon, number 79, as he comes up. Bacon made a good move to keep to the outside to contain the run. So Quazzo made a great move to come in there and throw him down for a loss. I think Quazzo actually had, it was either Brown or one of the backs that was open on a flare pass back in the end zone. He couldn't get it to him.
A loss of 12 yards back to the 16-yard line. It's 3rd down and goal to go from the 16. That's Bill Brown going up the middle. He's now past the 5,000-yard mark. He's back inside the 5 to the 4. Kermit Alexander on the tackle for the Rams. The left side of that Minnesota offensive line, Grady Alderman, 67, who is the lone remaining original Viking, and Ed White doing quite a job blocking. So it'll be 4th down. The ball is just short of the 5-yard line, and the Minnesota field goal unit has come on the field.
A little confusion there. The fellow that keeps the downs over here on the sideline had failed to put that 4th down marker up. Those Vikings, I think, were going to try to slip out an extra down on them. They didn't realize this was on national TV and we'd catch them.
Fred Cox will try the extra point, try the field goal, number 14. Cox with 51 points as he started tonight. The extra point after the touchdown. He has 2 as he stands there. He will regain the scoring lead in the National Football Conference if he is successful with this field goal. He led the NFL in scoring last year. Earl Mann of Detroit had 10 points yesterday for a total of 53 points. David Ray has 49 points. But right now we zero in on Fred Cox. From the 13-yard line, it's good. And we have a timeout here in Minnesota, and our scoreboard now reads the Minnesota Vikings 10, the Los Angeles Rams nothing. On a very wet, cold, rainy night, Fred Cox stands to kick off for the Minnesota Vikings after the field goal. Dribbles it along the ground. It again is picked up by one of the wedge men, Pat Curran. And Curran, who knows what to do with the football, brings it all the way back to the Los Angeles 38-yard line where the Rams will have it 1st and 10. Wally Hilgenberg made the tackle for Minnesota. Coming up next Saturday on ABC, NCAA Regional College Football, California, USC, Nebraska, Colorado, South Carolina, Georgia, Holy Cross, Buffalo. Consult your local listings for the time of the game in your area. And those in the East scheduled to see California, USC will be watching the powerful Nebraska Cornhuskers and Colorado instead. Now here come the Los Angeles Rams, 1st and 10 as Roman Gabriel stops to pass, and his intended receiver, Wendell Tucker, downfield, fell down, and Gabe just unloaded it.
Well, Los Angeles has field position now, Keith, and they've got to start to make a move because early as it is, and although there's a long way to go and anything can happen, as they always say, there's no tougher team to play catch-up football against than the Minnesota Vikings. I'd like to amplify what I said earlier. Mr. Reeves, the owner of the Rams, is reported to have said Allen will not be back as coach even if they win the Super Bowl. There's a distinction between reported to have said and actually hearing the statement.
Isn't that the truth? 2nd down and 10. Inside, handoff. And the leather really snapped on that one. Number 88, Alan Page, was the first man to get to the ball carrier along with Gary Larson, who slid across.
You see, Alan Page, number 88, he made a great move to the inside. Actually, nobody touched him. And a guy that big, it maybe looked like a very simple move, but now there's not very many folks that can make that kind of move, so he's a difficult man to block on, and he's certainly a problem for any offensive team if you're going to run up the middle.
Larry Smith had 2 yards. 3rd down, 8 from the 40 for the Rams. Vikings leading 10-0. Eller gets back. Maybe he didn't. Penalty flags are down. Gabriel looking for someone to throw to and cannot get rid of it. And again, it's Alan Page, number 88, knocking the Los Angeles quarterback down.
While we await the penalty, Don, I'm surprised at the trouble Gabe is having getting rid of the ball because one would have expected him, based on the game plan he disclosed to us, to throw quickly to his backs flaring out or to his tight end. And he was looking deep then.
Yeah, he said that he thought he would start with a screen pass, Howard, maybe
That's
to
right.
kind of feel him out a little bit and see what they do. The Vikings do run a zone to the strong side and the weak side, so maybe he's checking them out some way that he didn't tell us about.
5-yard offside. Minnesota moves the ball to the 45-yard line. Rams, third down. They've got to go just over the 48 to get the first down. About 3.5 yards on third down for Gabriel. Roman to throw. Again, he's having trouble finding people. He cannot get away. Jim Marshall knocked him down. The football is loose, but the Rams retain possession. So the old pigskin is pretty slick tonight. And down in the bottom, Ken Iman, number 50, the man that came up with the ball and kept it for Los Angeles. That tells you something about the efficiency of the Minnesota secondary. That's 2 times in a row Gabriel just simply couldn't find anybody to throw to. The ball is back at the 39-yard line on 4th and 9. Pat Studstill is in to punt. The deep men are Bob Grimm and Charlie West for the Minnesota Vikings. And Studstill's kick, a low liner, goes to West. He takes it at the 26, 27-yard line, and he comes back about 2 yards before his feet are jerked out from under him by Bob Klein. At Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, we have a timeout with 6:36 to play in the first half, and the score, the Minnesota Vikings 10, the Los Angeles Rams nothing. The Minnesota Vikings own the football with 6:36 to go in the first half. The ball is at their own 29-yard line, first down. Gary Quazzo with Osborne and Brown behind him. And it's Osborne slipping through. And again, he got great blocking from the left side of the line. He comes all the way out to the 48-yard line before Kermit Alexander and Eddie Metter make the tackle for the Rams. 11 yards on the play. Right here, let's pause 5 seconds to allow our local stations to identify themselves. The Minnesota Vikings now have 9 first downs, 1 for the Rams. The Vikings lead 10-0, second quarter. 6 minutes to play in the first half. Quazzo gives it to Dave Osborne, and Osborne is dragged down back at the 37-yard line. And Dyrone Talbert, number 72, made the tackle for the Rams. The Minnesota Vikings grabbed the lead in the first quarter, capitalizing on a Los Angeles fumble, took it in from the 18-yard line, a scoring strike from Quazzo to Brown of 17 yards, and then Fred Cox has kicked a 13-yard field goal, and the Vikings have a 10-0 lead with 5:25 to go in the first half. Second down and 14. Back at the 36. Rams defense dancing around. Osborne slipping through, and Dave is back up to the 43-yard line for the Minnesota Vikings. This time it's Eddie Metter coming out of the secondary with help from Coy Bacon on the tackle.
They're taking a pretty good shot at the newest members of that fearsome foursome, and Coy Bacon and Darren Talbert over there. And this is not unusual. This is a kind of expected thing. It seems like if you find a new face in the lineup, that's what you want to do is check him out. Not that these guys are that new, but you've certainly heard a little bit more of Deacon Jones and Merlin Olsen. So they may continue that. We'll just have to wait and see.
Ball is at the 43, third down, 7, Minnesota. They've got to go to midfield to get the first down. Quazzo keeps on the sneak. He gets to the 46. And that's all. Number 66, Myron Patios, middle linebacker, stopped him. So Minnesota will have to kick it away.
Played it cautious, Don.
I don't know what that is. That's not like the quarterbacks I know. He called a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 8.
Tom McNeil, number 12, is in to punt as Gary Quazzo goes to the sidelines. McNeil has kicked twice for a 38-yard average, under his normal average. The deep man is Alvin Heyman. Heyman back at the 18. Slips and slides, and finally down he goes. Alvin Heyman is brought down by Dale Hackbart, number 49. We've seen a little pilfering and a little thievery out here on the field so far in this first half. Well, it's probably a good thing to have Burt Reynolds with us tonight as Detective Dan August, and you'll see him search out an elusive lawbreaker Wednesday night at 10, 9 Central Time on ABC.
He's my favorite policeman.
Rams ball, first down, 26-yard line. Vikings lead 10-0. Let's see what the Rams can do if they can get it going. Gabriel gives it to Lester Josephson. And the big youngster from Minneota, Minnesota, comes up and gets no more than 2.
We're down to 3:15 left to play in the half, Keith. And it reminds me of the situation a year ago when Los Angeles had everything going for it in the first half and led against Minnesota in the Western Conference title game 17-7 at halftime. Now the 10-point differential favors Minnesota.
Give him 1 yard on the previous play. Make it 2nd down and 9 from the 27. Gabriel stays with a running game. Carl Eller, number 81. Jim Marshall, number 70, on the defensive play for the Minnesota Vikings.
I know Roman's aware of this. We talked about it before the ball game. As he pointed out, says the worst thing you could do against a zone defense team is to force yourself, or you force your passing game into a zone, because we've talked about the zone many times. These people are covering areas out there, and it seems that he's been a little pressured for some reason to try to force his patterns. We may see him come back a little bit later and pick out the short ones.
3rd down and 7 from the 29. Gabriel back to throw. Nobody to throw to. He finally unloads it to Lester Josephson. It is short and incomplete. Jim Marshall was the man really putting the heat on Gabriel and forced him finally to unload it.
Well,
So we have 1:57 to play in the first half. NFL Monday Night Football will continue from Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota, with our score: the Vikings 10, the Rams nothing. Well, the music indicates some of the joy that is loose right now here in Minnesota as the Vikings lead the Rams 10-0. Pat Studstill will punt for Los Angeles on 4th and 7. Charlie West and Bob Grimm are deep. Pat doesn't get all of it. It's a high kick, but quite short, and it takes a Viking bounce and comes back upfield to the 48-yard line, and there Minnesota will have it 1st and 10. The Vikings have dominated the first half. Coming up at halftime, Howard Cosell will have highlights of NFL action for you. The Dallas-Kansas City game, Detroit-Chicago, Green Bay-Philadelphia, and the New York Giants' big win over the St. Louis Cardinals. Pat Studstill getting only 23 yards on that punt.
Told you I was going to talk to those Cowboys last week.
Yeah. Somebody did something. Gary Quazzo at the trigger for the Vikings. Back to throw. He had a moment, and then suddenly that moment was gone as the Rams penetrated Merlin Olsen and Tyrone Talbert.
Can't you just kind of feel that when all these guys come bouncing in there, and there comes one, here comes another one? That's a dentist back there with that football. He's an orthodontist. Isn't that what he was finished number 1 in his class? Interesting little story. They want to know why he wanted to be an orthodontist. Is that right, Keith?
Yes, that's right.
All right. And his comment was that he wanted people to come to him when they weren't in pain. I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist to a reason to be an orthodontist.
On 2nd down and 18, the handoff goes to Bill Brown in the middle, and there is no room for Mr. Brown this time as Myron Patios, number 66, and Deacon Jones, number 75, stop him. The ball is now back at the Minnesota 39. This series started up at the 48, so it is going to be 3rd down and 19. Jim Nettles, number 19, just checked into the Rams secondary, replacing Myron Patios on this 3rd and 19, so obviously the Rams expect pass. Quazzo gives it to Bill Brown, and Brown, trying to get loose, is tripped by Jack Pardee, who's quite a football story in himself. It'll be 4th down and about 23 yards to go, and there's the time remaining in the first half. The Vikings with a 10-0 lead, and they have thoroughly dominated this first half of play. Americans, you know, are aware of the tragic plane crash which killed 30 players and friends of the Wichita State University football team October 2nd. We joined the NFL in an appeal for sports fans everywhere to help Wichita State University deal with this tragedy, the worst in football history. A start has already been made, the surviving players voting to complete the remainder of the season as a memorial to their teammates. Now it's time for others to help them. Friends of college football at Wichita State University, students and alumni have created the Wichita Fund and urge everyone to join. So please help by sending your contribution to Wichita Fund, Wichita, Kansas, 67201. Tom McNeil to punt on 4th down. Oh, it's almost blocked. Willie Ellison may have gotten a piece of it. It's a very short kick. Kermit Alexander on the sideline with a wall of blockers. He may go all the way. He is down. Jim Lindsay dragged him down at the 2-yard line for Minnesota.
How quickly those things turn around. We see Alexander, number 39, and Alexander was a running back in college, so he knows what to do with that ball when he gets it. Makes a good move down the sideline. You see a great save there, just to bring him down just short of the goal line. We'll see if the Rams can get it in. That could turn this thing around in the second half.
The ball is on the Minnesota 2-yard line. 1st and goal to go. Los Angeles, a 49-yard return of that partially deflected, and I believe it was partially deflected, by Ellison, number 33. 19 seconds remain to play in the first half. Roman Gabriel trying to cash in on this big opportunity for Los Angeles. Lester Josephson is down to the goal line, but he is not in. Time called by Los Angeles. 11 seconds to play in the first half.
What a turn of events, as you said. What a break for Los Angeles when most had needed it. And we talked before about George Allen. One of his most daring trades took place in the last offseason when he sent his place-kicking specialist, Bruce Gossett, up to San Francisco for Kermit Alexander and elected to go with a youngster who came up to the big time as a wide receiver named David Ray. Ray came through in a clutch situation against Green Bay last week to break a 21-21 tie. Alexander is evidencing his values tonight, and the Allen theory is, I respect specialists, but if I can get a man who's a total athlete, I want it. Under crisis conditions, he'll react the way a total athlete should, and the place kicker won't. 11 seconds left to play, as you see, in this, the first half. If the Rams can get this over, well, it's a 3-point differential, and as everyone would say, a brand new ball game.
Both tight ends, Truax and Klein, are in the ball game now. 2nd down and goal from about 2 feet away. Gabriel, quarterback sneak. He did not make it. The middle of that Minnesota line.
They get...
Did he fumble the ball? The time ran out. But it looks like he is calling them. Now, let's see. Just hold everything. Whether or not the Rams were able to call time before time expired. The indication apparently is that Gabriel on the quarterback sneak did manage to call time before time expired. Wally Hilgenberg and Gary Larson were already off the field. But Gabriel keeping the ball on the quarterback sneak. Immediately called time when he heard the whistle. Gabriel tries again. He did not make it. He did not make it, and the Vikings hold.
That's going to be tough to live with.
Yes, sir. We'll be talking about that one for a long time to come.
Oh, my. We have come to the end of the first half with our score. The Minnesota Vikings 10, the Los Angeles Rams nothing. Howard Cosell will be back with a look at the highlights of yesterday's NFL action right after this message.